This country has a big obesity problem right now. How did we get to this point in the last couple decades?
You know, this is a guess, but I think that this is where a lot of people are thinking this is coming from, is that probably it was a low-fat craze that sort of came out in the 60s, 70s, probably, maybe 70s, 80s. And I think that probably was one of the factors that led down that path. You know, it's very unclear. There was probably so many other things that happened around that time too. Just the exposure to fast food and processed food probably around the same time. But we started, really thinking about fat as bad. You know, there were some studies that looked at heart disease and they looked at cholesterol, and they were trying to put like 1 + 1 = 2. So they said, well, if you have fat, you make cholesterol, you get heart disease. And it turns out that that's not the case. It's so much more complicated than just high cholesterol that causes heart disease. So there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding. So everyone thought that, well, if we go on the low-fat diet, that's going to be great, right? We're going to reduce heart disease, we're going to lose weight. But what happened was people didn't like the taste of food when it didn't have fat, and they were hungry. So they wound up eating more calories to make up for the loss of fat, and they started eating carbohydrates to make up for the loss of fat. And a lot of the food companies that were making these types of foods were, adding in things for taste, and so that was, people were consuming more calories, people were, relying on processed food, and I think that just sort of led down this path. This is probably more complicated than that, but that's one view.
Along that same time, when everything went low fat or fat free, soy was being pushed as a big health food too, and now it's starting to be reversed. Where does soy fit in terms of, that health craze, and how good is it for us or not good?
Yeah, I mean, I think people wanted to believe that, this vegetarian-based, vegan-based food could solve our problems and could solve our heart disease and obesity. The problem with soy, there are so many levels, on so many levels it's a problem. Soy is very processed. Most of the soy that's available in this country, and in order to get it into the state that's edible, it's been changed so many times, and it's become very estrogenic in the form that we are eating it in. So, I worry about soy exposure, in children and in women and even in men. We're being exposed to these, I'll call them xenoestrogens. They're estrogens that are not natural to our own body. And that's wreaking havoc. That's doing things that we don't know what it's doing exactly. So soy is a problem on that level. The other problem with soy is that it's genetically modified for the most part. There's very little soy that's available in this country that's not genetically modified. And I think that's a problem. And the same goes to corn as well. Also mostly genetically modified. That's a problem.
And that's bad. Why? Do we even know?
I think that what we're concerned about is that, when you change a plant, you introduce certain properties to that plant that we don't know how that affects the receptors in our cell and what our body does to those compounds.